The projections have the Chicago Bears offense carrying a lot of weight heading into the season. And on today's episode, we're going to rank each of the Bears position groups from strongest to weakest. And some of my rankings may actually shock you guys a little bit. Plus, we're going to look at some of the roster battles and players that are on the bubble entering training camp and who could very well not make the final 53-man roster heading into the 2026 season. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the mailbag as it is Friday. It means it is mailbag day here at Chicago Bears Central. We're going to listen to your voicemails. All that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to take a look at today's episode, especially with training camp being right around the corner, and looking at the Chicago Bears position groups from strongest to weakest, right? And, I know everybody's going to have their own list. And when I do things like this, I want to be clear with everybody. Don't say, hey, you should have had X higher, because that would have been your list, not my list. Now, I do want to hear your guys' list in the comment section, but keep in mind, as I said, that this is my list. Your list can be very well different, but this is my personal list. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So, coming into this, I think that the two strongest groups for the Chicago Bears are the tight ends and the offensive line. And I wanted to, in judging these, I really went back and forth on which one I was going to put at number one. My mind almost went to putting the tight end group at number one, but because so much of it isn't necessarily, we don't know for sure with Sam Roush and how he's going to play. And no doubt that Colston Loveland and Kmet are still one of the strongest tight end groups in the game of football, but I think I'm going to put the offensive line here number one. And the reason being is because even with Drew Dalman's retirement and Audrey Trapillo, being hurt to start the season, I still think that this group, having Darnell Wright, having Jonah Jackson, having Joe Thuney is one of the best, the reigning protector of the year, one of the best offensive linemen in the game of football. It's just more provenness in this group. And, even with Garrett Bradbury coming in there, as the starting center, we'll see if Logan Jones can push him for that. But even with that, this is still a veteran that has a very high floor in what he's going to be able to produce. He doesn't really give up sacks, those type of things. And so I look at this group and I say, this is still the strongest group to me. And part of the reason being so much of the youth being there as well. Like Darnell Wright is still, turning into the offensive lineman he's going to overall be for his career. Logan Jones, who we just talked about, long-term does project to be the starting center there, and the longevity there that you have. But then you look at Joe Thuney and what he's did over his career, and Darnell Wright, second-team All-Pro. I got the offensive line as the strongest position group for the Chicago Bears, and that's just because of all the depth that you have there. And part of the reason that our running game took such a big step forward last season was because of the improvements that we made in that offensive line. I just think this group is just so strong of a group that I had to rank them number one, which naturally then puts the tight end group at number two. And like I said, just Kmet and Colston Loveland make this one of the best tight end groups in the game of football. You add in Sam Roush and all the potential that he has there as well. It's great for when it comes down to it. Colston Loveland and Kmet combined for 88 receptions, 1,060 yards, and 8 touchdowns during the regular season last year. And you look at how Colston Loveland became the focal point in a lot of ways of the Chicago Bears offense over that time. And there's a lot of reason to believe in what Colston Loveland's going to do. We've talked about Colston Loveland, when it's all said and done, could end up the best tight end in the game of football. Not just one of the best tight end in the game of football. And you look at how the national media response has been to that as well. The hype around him, extremely strong when it comes down to it. So the tight end group is the second strongest group overall on the Chicago Bears roster. And I think that's wholeheartedly up there as well. Then at number three, I'm going to put the quarterback group, and mainly because of Caleb. Of course, Tyson Bagent, a strong backup as well. I think you have a very strong backup in regards to that one. Tyson Bagent as your QB2 brings a lot of strength and depth there. Case Keenum as well as the quarterback 3 brings a veteran who can act as a coach in a lot of ways also. But Caleb Williams, a guy that has the chance to be an MVP conversation this year if he works on that efficiency. Absolutely, the quarterback group is an extremely strong group for the Chicago Bears team as well, and I got to put it up there. The number 4 group that I'm going to put there, and this may be a little bit controversial when it comes down to it, is the cornerbacks. Now, this is operating off the idea that the cornerback group is going to be fully healthy. This changes if Kyler Gordon's not healthy, if Jalen Johnson's not healthy, all that type of stuff. But I think when you look at this cornerback group, having Jalen Johnson, having Kyler Gordon, having Tyreek Stevenson, having Terrell Smith, having Malik Muhammad now in there as well as a depth piece also, Cam Lewis as a veteran piece that can do a lot. This is a very strong group. And I think also the importance that it has in Dennis Allen's defense automatically thrusts it to be high up in these type of rankings, because we know for a Dennis Allen system, you want to have those cornerbacks, you want to have all those defensive backs out there. And I think that the cornerback group is next up. This is one of the strongest groups in football if they can stay healthy. Now, they didn't get a chance to prove that last year, so this ranking may seem high for a group that didn't really get to prove it last year because of all the injuries that they had. But I'm telling y'all right now, if this group is finally healthy this upcoming season, this is going to be a group that really does change the mind of a lot of Bears fans on exactly how deep this cornerback room is for the Bears. And I think they have an extremely strong chance to do that. They just need everybody to be healthy. Kyler Gordon has to be healthy. And there could be a case made that the fact that we're even saying if the health should knock them down a reign or two. And I understand that. But for me, like I said, I'm kind of operating off the idea of full health there. I think this group is extremely strong, and I think they're going to be very strong when it comes down to it. The next group that I have for at number 5 is going to be the safeties. I think the safety group for the Chicago Bears, I know they're a little bit more unproven with Denny Thieneman, Kobe Bryant, this being his first year here for the Chicago Bears as well. This could be one of the best dynamic duos in the game of football in the way that they're able to do so many different things out there. And we just talked about how important it is for defensive backs in Dennis Allen's system. But then you look at Elijah Hicks, Cam Lewis as well is going to back this up a little bit. Also, this is a strong overall group for the Chicago Bears. And I think that you have the strong starters that can kind of fit together in doing a lot of different things in Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman. And you have those guys that are going to be able to come in there and do some really good things. I like this group a lot for the Chicago Bears. And I think our safeties are going to be one that has a really good, strong chance to kind of turn some heads when it all comes down to it. The next up, I didn't know whether to go running backs or wide receivers here, right? While I love Luther Burden, I think Luther Burden is set for a breakout this upcoming year. I like Rome Odunze. I love what we have as far as the triumvirate that we have there at the wide receiver 3 with Xavier Thomas and Khalif Raymond and Jade Walker. I love those guys. But I think I'm going to go the running back above here, mainly because it was proven. We have one of the best rushing attacks in the game of football. We have one of the best rushing duos in the game of football. And of course, because I'm a former running back, I think I lean a little bit more towards that direction there. Now, I will say this. The thing that stops them from being higher on this list is the fact that our running back 3 situation is right now in turmoil. If one of Kyle Monangai or DeAndre Swift goes down, while I do think the other one can stand up and have a really good day, that depth behind that and maintaining that two-headed monster becomes very hard for the Chicago Bears to do if one of those guys suffers an injury. So it knocked it down a little bit in regards to this one. How strong that backup group between Roschon Johnson, Britton Brown, and Coleman Bennett end up being to really push this to be deserve to be further up this list. But the running backs are still a very strong group, which then leads me to the wide receivers. For all the things I just said, Luther Burden is poised for a breakout, and he could be a top 10 wide receiver when this season's all done and over with, viewed that way. And Rome Odunze, we know that he's adjusting to the bone in his foot and stuff like that and the change that's there. But then the wide receiver 3 group with Jahade Walker, Xavier Thomas, all those guys, Khalif Raymond being there, this is a group that could be very strong. Now, missing DJ Moore is going to miss some of the consistency that we have there, and somebody's going to have to step up in that regard. But overall, this is still a very talented group that I think has a chance to turn some heads next year, to do a lot of things, and I love it as well. Next up, the linebacking group. I feel very confident in this linebacking group overall. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a little bit too high on it. Again, they're second to last in this group, but I really do feel strong about this linebacking group. Again, they have to stay healthy, but when you have TJ Edwards, Devin Bush, Keyshawn Elliott, DeMarco Jackson, you brought back Jack Sanborn, right? I talked about Ruben Hippolyte on yesterday's episode. I think that you have a lot of guys in this linebacker room. The depth of this linebacker room can really push it to be really strong going forward as well, and I feel confident in this. Now, I think they're going to have to prove a lot, right? They're going to have to be better at stopping the run right along with that defensive line, and if they do those things, all those things could be really good in that regard. But this linebacking core has some really strong aspects of it, We're just going to see how it's going to come out once through training camp and through preseason. But I think that this group, if they're healthy, can be really strong. And then that leaves the defensive line as the last group here. And the defensive line was the weakest group for the Chicago Bears in 2025. And we didn't really make huge changes there. Of course, Austin Booker, you're hoping for better health from him for the entire season. You're hoping that Grady Jarrett coming into this offseason fully healthy can be better. Then you added better depth. Contavious Street, Neville Gallimore, I like the depth there. Jordan Vanderberg could really push this a little bit further depending on how good he is as a rookie and what he does show in that regard as well. If you do get a bounce back year in a way for Dayo Odeyingbo, it can help those things. But there's so many questions and what ifs with this defensive line that I think clearly they have to be. The only sure thing is really Montez Sweat. Javon Dexter's kind of sure thing in pass rush as well, but you need Austin Booker and you need Javon Dexter to really grow as run stoppers, I think, this upcoming season. And if you get that, you're in a really good pathway going forward there. But all right, next up, coming out of that, I do want to talk about players that I feel that are on the roster bubble this season. And the one I got to start off with first is Roschon Johnson. I don't know if Roschon is going to make the final roster. Now, he could, because you have guys that are kind of unproven in Britton Brown and Kmet Bennett behind him, right now on the depth chart. But I think if you go into training camp and if any of these guys have a stronger proven than Roschon Johnson, I do think Roschon could be gone, right? And he contributed more on special teams than what he did in the offense last year. He had more tackles than carries. I think that they've already shown the Bears have kind of moved on from Roschon as a running back. That's just the reality of it. And I think Kmet Bennett has a very strong case to push Roschon even further down that depth chart as a running back. And if that happens, I don't think what he provides on special teams is enough to warrant him staying on this roster. So Roschon Johnson is the number one player on the roster bubble for me heading into the season. Number two, and this is just for depth purposes, is Stephen Carlson, the tight end there. When we drafted Sam Roush, we still have Cole Kmet. I do think that this is a guy that he could end up being the odd man out. If Sam Roush is ready, which it seems like all signs point to him being, Stephen Carlson is on his way out, and that's regardless of it. He's probably going to be playing for another team, and that's perfectly fine. Now, the only way that I think you can, if the Bears do have any inkling that they could trade Cole Kmet at the trade deadline, I have my doubts for that. Maybe you can see him stick around, but I think Carlson is probably on his way out. Next up, the cornerback Jalen Jones. I think Jalen Jones, hopefully with Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon being healthier, Jalen Jones is not going to be as needed, especially with Malik Muhammad and Terrell Smith being healthy as well. Now, I do think with Kyler Gordon potentially having an injury, you can hold on to all your depth there at the cornerback, but Jalen Jones could be the guy that's on that bubble in that cornerback room that could find himself on the way out as well. At least I think that could be a chance. And then the last guy, Daniel Hardy, the defensive end. I think Daniel Hardy is a guy that could be on his way out. And I think that, maybe it doesn't happen immediately, but I think there's a chance he may not make the final 53-man roster. It really depends on how confident they are in Dayo Odeyingbo's capability of providing some depth at that edge position and how well Austin Booker is prepared to be the permanent starter. But all those things, I do think he's on the bubble heading into training camp as well. He's going to need a strong showing in preseason to be able to hold on to that roster spot, which he may very well do. But let me know who you guys think that are on the roster bubble for you down below. With that said, it is Friday. That means it is mailbag day here. Let's go ahead and get into these voicemails, man. This first one that we have, this one's from Vaughn.
What's good, Bears Nation? This is Vaughn from Indianapolis. Apologies, Haize, if this is my second one of the week, but my brother had a little extra time lately. That'll be going away soon. Just got done with a little crown apple. So as Snoop used to say back in the day, follow me. So real quick, Haize, on the Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift, I think Ben Johnson showed us what he was about when on Black Friday when he went into Philly and just kicked their ass, ground and pound. Some of our so-called offensive innovative minds in the past, your Nagy's, your Gary Crotons, they were cute. They tried to trick people. Ben Johnson will do all that. He'll take a shot on 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, but he will mash that ass. And that's exactly what happened on Philly. And we took a very physical front, Jalen Carter and Phillips, and just mauled them. So, first of all, I'll say that. As far as the pass rush, how long are we going to talk about this? Now, here's the thing, so I know most of the people out there, they feeling Ryan Poles. They feel he's done a good job, but then there's others out there that, don't think Ben Johnson can do any wrong. So my thing is, when it comes to the draft, some people brag on how much power Ben Johnson has. So, if we're neglecting defensive ends and defensive tackles in the third and fourth round, you can't have it both ways. How much of that is Ben Johnson? You know what I'm saying? So with Xavier Thomas and Sam Roush, if there were other, tackles or, well, particularly maybe an end, and a linebacker that I cited earlier, if they're on the board and we skip over them, it can't be just Ben Johnson when it's good. You know what I'm saying? It's Ben Johnson if that don't work out. Now, I like Roush and I like Xavier Thomas, but again, if this coach has so much influence on the draft, then maybe that's the reason Ryan Poles is skipping over defensive players, in the mid-round. So just something to consider. I love Poles and I love Ben Johnson, but I'm just saying it can't be, all good when everything goes, well, it's all Ben Johnson, but when things go bad, it's Ryan Poles. And most people out there don't think that, but there are some people out there that really hate on Poles and, think Johnson can do no wrong. So, anyway, bear down. Can't wait to training camp. Peace.
I love that you point out that some love to anything that goes good. They like to say, oh, Ben Johnson's the one making these decisions. Anything that they doubt, they like to throw doubt and say that it's Ryan Poles. The reality of it is that it's collaborative, as it should be. But Ryan Poles is the final decision maker. Can't tell you how many people I called out where they're like, oh my God, Ben, even somebody even had the nerve to make up, it's in Ben Johnson's contract that he has all the final say in every draft. And was like, no, he does not. That's stupid. It's idiotic if you legitimately think that. So yeah, it's a collaborative effort. Now, do we think that Ryan Poles maybe acquiesces some to make sure Ben Johnson has what he needs because the offense is the thing that could be elite? Maybe, right? But I think overall, like the decision not to go after edge comes down to they wanted to wait, right? Because they wanted to give Austin Booker a chance to show and earn that he can be a permanent starting defensive end. But also, next year you can come out of Diode Yingsbo's contract without it being such a huge cap hit and penalty that then you can have more flexibility to add an edge if you need to. There are business reasons and roster reasons and cap reasons why it makes sense for the Bears to wait. And that's just the reality of it, even though some fans like to sensationalize some things, but that's what fans do. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from CL.
What up, fellas? It's your boy Out West CL, representing the West Side of Chicago. That's Out West CL. Y'all always just say Out West, but it's all good. Shout out to Haize, shout out to Cognac Boys, but let's get right into it. The Bears was ranked top 5 running back duo. And guess what? I think this kid, Coleman Bennett, is going to crack a starting spot in the future for the Bears. I'm calling it now. Let's not forget, Swift is on his last year of his contract. He's an older running back. I like Monangai, but again, like I said in the past, he's smaller, even though he's stout. But how long you can be able to have him as a starting running back? I think Coleman Bennett could be the future running back of the Chicago Bears behind this offensive line. That's just my opinion. And also, I said this a month or two ago, the Bears are going to go as Caleb takes them. They're going to go as he goes. And I mean that works for the defense too, because if we putting up points, if Dennis Allen defense is going to be what we expecting, we should be shutting cats down. And not only that, if healthy, Chicago Bears can possibly be in the NFC Championship. We can be the biggest threat to the LA Rams because we know everything so far on paper look like it's going to go through the Rams. We're not even worried about the Packers. FBG, y'all know what it is. It's your boy Out West CL. Continue to do your thing, fellas. And I'm out of here. Peace. Black media.
As I said earlier, like Coleman Bennett could pass up Roschon Johnson. I like Coleman Bennett. Watching his tape, he's really good. And it's not like you're talking about him being the starter. You're talking about him being the running back 3 this year. Now, as far as what you're saying, as far as DeAndre Swift, I don't know if Coleman Bennett is a guy that would become the running back 1. I don't know if Kyle Monangai could do that. There's a chance of it. And anything is no bets are off in regards to it. But, I think that if DeAndre Swift has another strong season and shows no sign of slowing down, they'll probably just bring him back. Why create another question, as far as when you have other things that you may need to address, like running back and other things. So I think not running back, defensive end and other things. So I think there's still a strong chance that DeAndre Swift comes back, even if Coleman Bennett does look good, because then you just keep going with what you have and you let guys battle it out and see what they're going to do. So we'll see what happens in regards to that one. It just comes down, I think, who is the most consistent, right? And I think overall, like, too, between the offense and defense, as you said, like, you want more games where the offense and defense balance each other out, where they help each other consistently this season. You have that. I think you're on a really good pathway going forward personally. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Ezra.
Hey, it's Bobby, C-Dub, Steve-O, Big Kev. It's your boy Ezra, A-Z-R-A-H. And I just had a quick question for you guys. Was wondering what you thought about this. In 2024, Caleb's completion percentage was 62.5, and he had 68 sacks in that season. Caleb's percentage in 2025 was 58.1, and he had 24 sacks. My question is, with the comparison of the two seasons and the sacks included in that, do you think it's possible that the reason for Caleb's completion percentage being better in 2024 is because he took more sacks and had fewer chances to throw the ball, whereas in 25 he had more chances to throw, more chances for drops, and fewer sacks? Just curious about that. It's a real quick question for you guys. Let me know what you think. As always, sign up, Chi-Town up, bear down.
I think no, I don't think it's because he took more sacks. I think the 2024 offense was a lot more simplistic. We didn't go downfield as much. We didn't have as many weapons and targets. We didn't have that. I think that's what led and just being a little bit more protective. Like, Caleb Williams was very protective at the end of that season, protecting that interception ratio. He said it. He admitted it, right? And I think that led to a lot of that too, as far as the completion percentage, where you didn't see as much of that. But overall, we have another voicemail on completion percentage coming up. But I think overall, when it comes down to it, like, there were reasons why that kept down because of the simplicity of the offense more than anything else personally. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. I just wanted to call and comment on this whole completion percentage thing one more time. I'm just a little confused as to how that is the quote-unquote telltale sign that a guy's elite. So let's go back and look at some of the elite guys. Caleb's current completion percentage is 60.3 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not that far off. He's only like 4 to 5% off from Hall of Fame guys. So analytics is good for the game, but it sometimes it just causes you to overanalyze, and I think that that's bad for the game. So somewhere in the middle might be okay, but it just seems like overanalyzation, happens more often than not. You got Aaron Rodgers with a 65.1 career completion percentage. Dan Marino had a 59.4. John Elway had a 56.9. Mahomes has a 66.2, so he's 6 points away there. Tom Brady finished his career with a 64.3. Russell Wilson had a 64.6. Joe Montana had a 63.2. Lamar Jackson, 64.8. Matthew Stafford had a 63.5. And last year, Matt Stafford's completion percentage was only 5% better than Caleb at 65%. So I'm not saying that, just ignore analytics altogether. But just to say that the completion percentage, he has to get there in order to be considered elite, I don't think that that's true. And I can give you an example of what the White Sox just went through. Fuck the Cubs. We're drafting the number 1 pick in the draft, Brock Salowski. And last year around this time, everybody knew he was the best shortstop in the draft, period. No need to, best one we've seen come through in a long time. But by the time the draft came around this year, people had overanalyzed this kid so much and start pulling up all these different stats and just over-evaluated him so much that people were all of a sudden going, you know what, should we draft him? Should we go Von Lackey instead? No. You go with the best player in the draft and go based on what your eyes are seeing on the field. So I'm not saying that, it would be great if he can get up to a 70% completion percent. But Hall of Fame guys don't even have that as a career completion percentage. So what Caleb is doing is fine. There will be years where he's at 70, then there will be years where he's at 62 or 64, but that won't really, in my mind, be the true indicator on how good he is. So that's just how I kind of feel like, I know you're a dork, so you're going to disagree, but I'll sit back and wait for the shots fired. Let me know what y'all think. Check this up, bear down.
I do think you need to realize that everybody that you mentioned, except like you said, Elway, but everyone, especially recently, was at least over 62%. And I think that a 4 to 5% difference is a lot larger than when you think of it when you look at the number of throws those quarterbacks are making. I get it. I know counting really isn't your thing, but just saying, oh, it's just 4% difference. Like when you look at and again, this is where analytics matter. When you look at how much that 4%, how many more throws that is, and how many more completions that means, how many more yards that means, how many less third and long situations, how many more touchdowns that put you at, that 4 to 5% makes a pretty big difference there, right? And I don't think anybody said he needs to be at 70%. 70% was what Ben Johnson challenged him with doing, but you don't need to be at 70% to be a great quarterback, right? And I think also, like we said in me and you talking, off air, is that it's not just about saying that Caleb Williams can be a great quarterback with a 58, 60% completion percentage. But for Caleb Williams to get to where he said he wants to be judged by Super Bowls, you'd be hard-pressed to find the last time a quarterback won a Super Bowl with a less than 62% completion percentage. So you're holding him to that standard that he said that he wants to be at. So yes, getting to elite. And by elite, we don't just mean being able to put up a bunch of yards. We mean being able to win, accomplish things, win a Super Bowl, win an MVP, those type of things. That's what we mean by elite context. And I get that in your over-exaggeration brain that you do a lot, sometimes you miss context in regards to things of that. So he can be a good quarterback, to a great quarterback with a low completion percentage. But when you're talking about the efficiency that's needed to win Super Bowls, win MVPs, truly get over the humps, there's a commonality in which you see what elite quarterbacks really do, and you need that. And I think that's telling that the guys that you went to that had lower than that, John Elway, it's almost 30 years ago. And the league has changed in that regard. And I think that's what you have to look at as well. Nobody's saying that you can't be effective and win some football games with a 58% completion percentage. Caleb showed it last year, but I think when you look at the nature of how he did it with a lot of comebacks and things like that, if you don't want to have to live and die by the comebacks and those late fourth quarter drives and you want to be more dominant of a winner, you do need to get closer to 62, 64%, live somewhere in between that. And if you can get there, that's when you can start really winning some big-time things, big-time awards, and winning Super Bowls. And that's the hope that we want to see the Chicago Bears get to. So let's hope that we can get that done. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in, man. Thank you to everybody who left a voicemail. Leave your thoughts and comments down in the comment section on what you want to see, how your thoughts and feelings on all this are. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. Like I like to end every video on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.